there are still a lot of questions as to whether or not members of law enforcement on the scene that day will be facing any criminal charges.
Mark Austin joins us live once again from Uvalde with more details as we continue to pursue that angle of the story. Mark.
Yeah, David and Stephanie, 1 year later, it is still footage that is very difficult to watch. Robb Elementary School hallway about 100 yards to my left that was filled with law enforcement personnel while 19 students and 2 teachers lay dead or dying in 2 classrooms. But the question is, will any of the officers ever face criminal charges for their inaction that day? One legal expert from St. Mary's University School of Law says Texas officers can be held criminally liable for omissions or failure to act, but with an important stipulation. They aren't required to aid the public if doing so would expose them or someone else to a risk of bodily injury. And coming up later today on the news at 5, our Dylan Collier breaks it all down. And once again, there are several events happening today to remember the 21 lives lost, and we will continue our team coverage of those events throughout the day. David and Stephanie?
Thank you, Mark. And one of the first people from KSAT who arrived in Uvalde on May 24th last year was Leigh Waldman, and she has made it a point to return to the city almost every week for the past year.
Leigh now joins us live. Good morning, Leigh. First of all, I know you're on your way back to Uvalde for the rest of the day's activities and the special tonight, but you have been there so many times. Can you describe the atmosphere in the town? Has it changed? We know today is going to be a somber mood, but has it changed over this last year, or have you seen much of that?
We've seen a lot of changes over the last year. I think there's been some division that's popped up between the family and also with the people in the community. A lot of times the families have felt that the community hasn't stood with them when it comes to voting out certain elected leaders, whether that be on a state level or even on a local level. There's also sometimes a feeling of wanting the town itself to move forward, but when you experience a loss like this, some of the moms we've spoken with, and you'll hear from them tonight, they've said that there's no moving on after you've experienced a pain like they have, after you've lost a child or lost your mother in a way that they lost their loved ones this day last year. So the families and the loved ones of the victims, they haven't moved on. They won't move on until there's accountability and justice.
And Leigh, we know you will be very busy today in Uvalde with the coverage throughout the day, but we also understand that you have built close relationships with the families of the victims, and they have actually asked you to spend part of the day with them as they remember their loved ones. Well, how have you dealt with it as a reporter and personally?
You know, this has been a beautifully unique honor to be trusted to tell these stories in this way, to be led to people's homes, to hear about their loved ones, learn about who they were. It's been the absolute honor of a lifetime to be able to do that. And with handling that as a reporter, you do have to balance your job with also being a person. I can tell you that I have immense love for every and we've met person that we've met in that community. It goes deeper than just telling a story or just doing an assignment. No, it's you have real genuine love for these people. So personally, it's a hard day. It's a sad day because last year, I remember the first drive to Uvalde, I was with the same photographer, Gavin Nesbitt, that I'm with right now. And we were unsure of what we were going to experience. But throughout this last year, we've really formed some real relationships. And it's just a unique experience to love someone that you're never going to have a chance to meet. And that's how we feel about every single one of these victims. And that's how we feel about the survivors. And that's how we feel about their families, too.
Of course, last year, Leigh, we promised that we would remember those victims and their survivors throughout this last year. But what are we going to do going forward?
Well, our reporting, our push for accountability and following this story, it doesn't stop here. There are still not full answers as to what happened inside of Robb Elementary 1 year ago. The DA's investigation into this shooting has not been completed. Many of the law enforcement agencies, they've completed their internal investigation. They handed over that material to the district attorney's office. We got an update from the department. It's finally starting to move forward. forward after coming to an agreement with the district attorney's office for their independent investigator to have access to certain materials. So there still isn't a clear answer as to what happened that day. So that's where we step in, and that's where we continue to hold people accountable, and we continue to follow this story. There's also amazing things that these families are doing to remember their loved ones, and we're going to continue following that as well, because just because the 1 year mark is here, that doesn't mean the grieving stops, that doesn't mean the pain stops, that doesn't mean their fight stops. So we're going to keep following them every step of the way. As long as they want us there, we'll continue to be there.
And Leigh, you are driving to Uvalde, so your signal was cutting in and out just a little bit, but we want to ask you one more question. Our special program airs tonight at 9 o'clock, and what are you hoping people who watch 1 Year in Uvalde will take away from it?
I'm hoping that when people see our special program tonight at 9 o'clock, that if they didn't know about one of these victims, if they didn't know about one of these survivors, they come away from this knowing something a little bit more about them. Because what we've said from the get-go is these 21 victims, these survivors from Classroom 112 and from other parts of the school, they're more than just those moments this time last year. They were full people. They had dreams and goals and aspirations for themselves. So we hope that you come away with this knowing a little bit more about them, and maybe every year on their birthday, you celebrate for them. Maybe when you pass by a butterfly, you think of them, because that was a big thing here in Uvalde, the butterflies. The families say when the butterflies appear, the angels are near. So maybe you'll think of them, and maybe every May 24th, you'll light a candle, you'll say their names, you'll remember their faces. That's what I hope people get from watching tonight's program.
All right, Leigh, thank you very much as you continue to drive towards Uvalde to continue our live coverage throughout the rest of the afternoon and on into the evening with the special that we look forward to very much tonight, once again at 9 o'clock live here on KSAT 12. Safe travels to Uvalde, Leigh. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Leigh.